if we look at this and we give our honest opinion on that piece of copy that everybody has already seen, that's all over London, all over, I don't know, billboards and everything everywhere. If I'm honest about that, we're going to break the internet, Glenn. People are going to hate us.
The darlings of the advertising world. It is the height of good copy, according to the magazines and those in power in the advertising world. We will tackle it.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Let's first of all start with somewhere where we are more comfortable and less likely to cause massive offence, with a direct response headline. Now, what I wanted to do in this episode, Nick, was use the 4 U's, which we will briefly explain what the 4 U's is. I'll let you summarize them shortly, but I just want to use them in 2 examples, one from the direct response world, and one from the indirect, the above the line world, the agency world, and show how these very simple on the face of it, kind of this simple framework can almost always help you improve existing copy. And it's not about making it better or worse. I think it's just about trying to improve and try to find new tests. And I think if we go through both, we can say, hopefully people can start to see how it can help. So you should define, first of all, Nicolas Cage. What are the 4 U's?
Okay, so they're a way of strengthening headlines, is the way that they were developed. The best way of thinking about them is like a toolkit, or a series of questions you can ask yourself to try and strengthen your headline. Now, they work equally well for a subject line or a blog post headline, or like I said, even above the line stuff. They're not necessarily things that all copy has to have, but you should consider whether or not you can make your copy more urgent, more unique, more useful, and more ultra specific. So, I mean, technically it's 3 U's and an S, but the 4th U is a bit of a wheeze. And these are things that were developed in the direct response world through observation. So they're not laws that were laid down that all copy should be this. It's the reverse of that. It was through a study of what working copy did, what qualities it seemed to have. And Bill and Mark and other people in the early days of Agora identified these 4 things as things that lots of strong copy had. Not all, and not every time, but often enough that is worth asking yourself, almost like a checklist. Can I make my copy stronger in those 4 areas? And almost inevitably, your copy will be stronger. Even if you don't change anything, just through asking yourself those questions. So to repeat the 4 U's, I'm going to repeat them in a different order: ultra specific, useful, urgent, and unique.
Unique. Cool. So there is millions of, I hate any absolutes in advertising, in copywriting, in marketing. There are no absolutes. And that is certainly the case with the 4 U's. You can have a headline that has, none. I can't imagine what that headline would be. In fact, it might be no headline, and therefore it's got none of them. But then that would perhaps be unique. The point being, though, is there is a lot of nuance to this. It helps you, as you say, understand your idea more as well, if not actually making changes to the copy itself.
Can I interrupt you? There are absolutes process-wise in advertising. So, for instance, reading your copy aloud will make your copy stronger. You may not change anything about it, but that, to me, is an absolute. I've never met anyone who says, no, I refuse to read it aloud, and yet it's perfect. So, from a process point of view, I would say, whether you change anything or not, that is to say, the copy could remain the same throughout this, going through the process to stress test it will always be worthwhile. It won't always lead to changes, and you may choose to ignore elements of it, but the process is an absolute.
So to follow a process whereby you are attempting to analyze your copy will absolutely help improve your copy. We've found an absolute.
Of course it will. Of course it will. It's just like saying talking your copy out with somebody who knows what they're talking about will make your copy better. Well, of course it will.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's an interesting. I obviously hate things when it's like, oh, if you add X, then this will do that. It's like, and that's not the case. But if you, they're kind of prescriptive absolutes. I don't like, but I like that way of thinking because it is true. If you read stuff aloud, if you analyze stuff, if you follow processes, then yes, I would agree with you.
If you look at it in terms of your behavior and things you do, there are loads of absolutes. What we can't be absolute about is our prospect's response. We can't ever be absolute about that because they're human beings. We cannot know how our copy will make them feel, will make them act, will make them behave. So you can't you can't rely on any absolute there. But there are certain things like going for a walk will make you feel better. It will.
Unless actually, I'll doubt you on that one. On the basis that if you go for a walk and get shot, then you will not feel better for having had that walk.
Going for a walk and getting shot will always make you feel worse. Right, we're getting into a vortex of language. Let's look at some copy and we'll talk people through.
Let's go through. So the first one we're going to bring up and look at is, I'm going to read it aloud so you can hear the thing. And we're just going to look at the headline complex. As we say, there are ways you can use the 4 U's throughout your copy and across different formats. If you're interested in that, we've got a whole masterclass series on that, and I'll share a link around this episode. But we'll just look at the headline. We've got an eyebrow. This is a direct response long copy sales letter in the form of a video sales letter. So it's a video, but it's got that headline and eyebrow around it. The eyebrow reads, "The largest economic disruption since Ford's Model T." The headline, in quotes, is just the word inception. And then the deck copy beneath the headline says, "The world's most powerful tech companies are all quietly racing to be at the forefront of this new phenomenon. But only one small company holds the master key to disrupting this $7 trillion industry." Nick, what are your thoughts there on the headline generally? And then let's literally just zoom in on each of the 4 U's and wonder if we can apply them here.
Yeah, so it's actually really hard to judge the core headline that just says inception. I mean, I've seen copy like that work. I've never written any copy like that. A one word, what would you call that? Just sort of meaningless. I mean, you can generate meaning in the deck, the copy that surrounds your word. So it's kind of hard to judge that, but we can just look through the whole headline complex, because it's not just about the core headline idea. It could be the whole complex. It's pretty good. I think it would be improved by using the 4 U's. I think we should start where the idea really is, which is actually in the sub copy, the copy that reads, "The world's most powerful tech companies are all quietly racing to be at the forefront," because that's kind of where the idea is. And what I think will become obvious is that actually, if you force your idea to be more urgent, unique, ultra specific, and useful, you actually make your idea stronger. And through that process, we may find a better headline. We may not. So, but we may, but we may well, because inception doesn't, apart from the fact that it's the name of a film, I have no real understanding of what that word means. That tends to be why those words are picked. They're picked for their meaninglessness, because they end up being a blank canvas.
Could you argue, without trying to labour the point too much, but is it useful? No. Is it urgent? No. Is it ultra specific? Not really. Inception, I mean, you see. And is it, I've forgotten the what have I done? Urgent. Is it urgent? No. So it's just not got anything there. That's not to say it's not. Is it unique? Not really.
Maybe I'd give it a half score on unique. I haven't seen that word elsewhere. I haven't seen plenty of words in a headline. I haven't seen the word banana. So,
you've not seen that copy I sent you earlier on to review. Changed my headline.
For that brand of bananas that we're
but yeah, so it's but just even on that micro level, you can already see, right, well, there's questions to be asked of that, but when you zoom out, it's being used as part of a construct. Then it might allow it some more weight, kind of thing.
Yeah. So let's look at the deck and see what we can do. So the deck comes in two half sentences. The world's most powerful tech companies are all quietly racing to be at the forefront of this new phenomenon, but only one small company holds the master key to disrupting this $7 trillion industry. Okay, so is that unique? No, I would say no. Heard that a million times before.
Yep.
Is it ultra specific? No, I would say no, it's not. And we'll talk about how it could be. Is it useful? I'll give it a half point for that. It talks about a small company. I'm an investor. I am interested in hearing about, a small company that's at the heart of a much bigger thing. So perhaps there's a half point there for useful.
And it's got the implicit usefulness in the sense that would implicitly suggest that you're going to make money by investing in this company.
And I think that's an important thing to understand, that lots of the things we're going to talk about can be implied. In fact, making them too explicit can make the copy rubbish.
Yeah.
And this is where you get people using the 4 U's. Maybe they've read about them online and they've applied them incorrectly. So for instance, sorry, what was the final one? Urgent. Quietly racing. Yeah, I'd give that a quarter point for urgency, just for the word racing. I would say super strong. Okay, so we can look at that first sentence. The world's most powerful tech companies are all quietly racing to be at the forefront of this new phenomenon. Okay, how would we make that stronger? Well, we could make it more specific by naming the companies. Which tech companies? We might start there. Generally would be what I would start with, specificity.
Apple, Meta, Google, it adds that specificity. It relates to people. You can see what's going on. It grounds it in reality, which is what is happening when you make things more specific.
Yes. So let's say it's Apple, Meta, and Amazon. How are they racing? I would ask myself specifically how. So I don't know how that manifests itself in the world, but are they signing contracts? Are they opening new offices? Are they making acquisitions? What are they doing to be at the forefront? Have they hired a new team? So I'm trying to make the idea itself more specific and pull out details, because those details tend to cascade across to both urgency and uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, we might start by saying Amazon, Meta, and Apple. Well, we might find that when we ask ourselves, how are they, racing, that Amazon are the ones that are racing, most. And they just hired 10 new computer scientists in a lab in whatever to be a part of this or whatever. They just made a $200 billion acquisition. Okay, now I feel like I've got something that's a bit more unique. Now, I did just have to make those things up, but...
Yeah. But 9 times out of 10, if you do the research, you will find this stuff.
Yes. So, for instance, then our copy can become, it's so valuable that Amazon just spent $200 billion and hired a whole crack team of scientists. Okay, now that's unique.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see how specificity might start to talk to uniqueness. And that might actually lead its way into urgency, which is, well, when is this story going to intersect with my life? What's happening around this story that I need to know about? Those are all the questions that I'm asking myself. So you can see how it's a process, right? Now, there may be nothing, But I think by asking those questions, we sort of edge the copy towards something we haven't seen before.
Without going too deep and up to a publisher level decision. But if you dig further and there isn't the details, you might be wanting to question, why are you talking about that idea in the first place? Because you've not got a strong enough idea to actually write a whole promotion around, because it's just a not unique and not interesting idea. There isn't unique detail. 9 times out of 10, though, you will find, if you do that extra piece of research, you'll find a detail that will be more specific, that will, as you say, then make it more and then more urgent. In that case, you'll get the specificity from, say, they've employed 10 people, and if them 10 people are then working on a new thing that's going to be launched on the 16th of November, you've got all of your urgency, which this promotion hasn't got any urgency really in the title. You've got a deadline. You've got to get into this company before the 16th of December, because that's when this new crack team of things are going to release their first thing. So it all comes back down to that research and getting those details out.
I would say, just as an aside, I've never yet found one that you can't. I mean, I've been a financial copywriter for 15 years. I've yet to find a company that you can't pull an interesting detail out of. It just doesn't exist. You're not a curious enough person if you can't find. There is always something, whether it's, now what you're talking about is, okay, if I was a publisher and a copywriter brought that to me and said, the world's most powerful tech companies, and I said, which? And they said, well, none of the really big ones. I'd say, well, don't say they're the most powerful tech companies in the world. So that's a lie, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is a theoretical conversation now, not about the copy.
Yeah.
But you need to say something else. Which companies are, or are all of these companies connected to the Ministry of Defense or the MOD, whatever it might be? Like, where is the connection? But you'll get that through specificity. So to me, in a financial copy world, the specificity is always where I start, because I think that cascades across. Now, let's just look at the second part of that sentence. Yep. Only one small company holds the master key to disrupting this 7 trillion industry. Okay. So how could we make that more specific? Well, small company, I'm looking at actually what size is it? How long has it been around? Where is it based? What other details might we use to describe this company? It's about being a detail hunter, right? That's one of the ways I describe this. Small company. Okay, that could be any company. There are millions of small companies. What is unique about this one? So to make it sound unique, we probably have to go back to specificity to draw that out. And then we can do that to the second part, the master key. What does that mean? That's a copywriting phrase. I've heard it in lots and lots of copy. It doesn't mean it won't work, but what does it do? Has it put the technology the big players need on a chip? I think having watched the beginning, the beginning of the actual lead talks about a microchip or something. I think it's on the screen now, which we can see now. It's kind of like a little chip that fits on the top of your fingertip. Okay, that's more interesting to me than master key. One Arkansas-based. Wow, I picked that.
Jazz saxophonist.
One whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever.
That's where Clinton's from, isn't he? He's from Arkansas. I think that's why I was thinking of saxophonist.
Yes. Clinton era jazz.
He's from Hope, Arkansas, I think.
Yeah.
You only know that from writing a financial promotion.
But let's say such and such company, Arkansas-based company, just patented the technology they'll all need, ... and it'll fit on the head of a pin or whatever.
Yeah.
To me, that's far more interesting than a master key disrupting a $7 trillion industry, which I heard said before. So you can see there how it's usually about zooming in and saying, where are the specifics? That then leads to uniqueness in general, because you're trying to find the thing that you can say about this situation that you cannot say about any other situation, about any other company. That's where uniqueness comes from. So those two are joined at the hip. And then we've, spoiler alert, done a 6-part masterclass on this where we focus in on all of them. I did specificity and uniqueness, didn't I, Glenn? Because those two things are kind of joined at the hip. they're kind of two sides of the same coin. So
I think, sorry, I was going to say, I think we've kind of dug down. You can already see that. There's two things I would say though. Number one, just on the copy itself, by following that, as you've just suggested, Nick, and that great tip from you as always is getting that detail, and that allows you to then it allows you to then dig down on your idea and then spin out to even different ideas. And that, we go back to the inception word. If you've got that detail, that it is this Arkansas-based thing and they've got the fingertip and all this kind of stuff, you might find that you've actually got a different, rather than just saying better, because I'm not saying inception's wrong, but you might have a different angle, a number of different headlines that you might want to test from that do offer more specificity, do offer more usefulness and uniqueness than the inception. So it just shows you the benefit of going around that, because you can then spin it out. I sent you a piece of copy yesterday where I think I had a detail in page 6 where it's like, this is the thing that you can then spin out, kind of thing. It doesn't the existing one. I won't use the language that you used to think, but it doesn't mean the existing headline isn't valid. You can do that, but it gives you, by digging down, you can then spin those out to other ideas. I was just going to say, before you do the comedy on the end of that thing, this was the first, I went in my inbox and just picked out a promo from my infinite number of emails I get. So we're not saying this is a bad promo, it's not working. It's just that this was the first one that came to me. And I think that is the evidence of the power of the 4 U's. This could be smashing it for all we know, to use the horrible term, but it could be like working really well. But it just shows, even if that is the case, there are ways you can look for new tests, new ways to maybe possibly improve it or find a new audience altogether. And that's the point of applying the 4 U's in this way. Hopefully you can see that in the way we've gone through it there.
I did what I would describe as an all caps comment, which was actually the 3rd time I'd done that day, where I sort of, it's usually with something like that where it's like, but this idea is brilliant. Why have I had to read 6 pages? Not that the previous 6 pages weren't good, but when you get a great idea later down, you just think, oh, come on, it's this. So I was put all caps. I'm like, well, anyway, let's talk about urgency. And I think we'll use that as our transition into the other piece of copy we're going to look at today. So,
well, yeah, I was just going to say, just to tee it up, we're going to look at from the other side of the world in terms of the split between direct response and indirect is one way you can split this up. But this is a billboard ad that, again, I just chose at random. It was the first thing that came out of my my inbox where I keep a load of stuff. And this is from an agency in the UK, done by Uncommon. It's for British Airways. These adverts have been running for quite a while, and they've got many, many plaudits. In the advertising world, I have not seen any results for how effective they've been. Obviously, you're looking to raise brand awareness here. There is a million arguments for this, and I'm couching all of this because a lot of people love, in inverted commas, these adverts. But we're going to take one and have a look at it. Before we do, though, Nick, you saying about urgency and how that comes into this.
Well, this is going to bridge us between the two ideas. So urgency, sometimes in the direct response world, is like, sale ends Friday, whatever, a date that you have to act by. So it could be something the company is going to do, this little company that's involved with these big giants, some earnings announcement, whatever. It could be a date or it could be a deadline. You see this in Above the Line too, where it's like DFS does a sofa sale on bank holiday. It's like sale ends Monday night or whatever. That's generally urgency. It can be used in quite a hackneyed fashion. So I was just thinking of urgency as, how do we show it's happening now? Happening to me now. Like, so I always think to myself, never mind a date, how would I when's the next way station or turning point within this story? So is there a deal going down? Is there a set of results? Is there a contract going to be signed? Is there something, what's going to happen soon that's going to make this story relevant to me? I don't see that in this copy. It's probably there somewhere, although I I often worry if the answer is nothing right now, that's a flaw in the copy. I've seen plenty of copy work that doesn't have a date, but it could be like any day now this could happen. You know, financial crisis is often like that. Like, well, it could start tomorrow. We can't say it, you know, nobody tells you when it's coming. It could be 6 months, it could be tomorrow. That's natural urgency, the sense that something is imminent, the sense being the important one. And rather than actually discuss that idea in the context of this copy, I think we should start the next piece of copy by talking about urgency. So
let me describe the copy then. It's a billboard ad. So we've got a big, effectively blank white space. In the bottom corner, you've got a logo for the brand, for the product and service. And I'll describe it in those terms because I think it's useful to, which is British Airways. In the top left-hand corner of the white space, you have 3 circled dots like you would be filling in an option, and you've got 3 options next to them. In this case, this specific one, it says business as one option, leisure as another, and then the third option, which is selected, says stag do, pray for me. And then below that is the British Airways logo. I'm going to leave it in isolation as this particular advert, and then perhaps at the end we can discuss the concept that there are many versions of this ad, so there'll be business, leisure, and then picnic by the sea kind of thing as the option, or like rainy day escape or something. We can talk about that at the end as a slight addendum to this, but all advertising is experienced in the singular, where it is the advert and the reader there and then. They don't see 12 adverts at once, they see one, and that's the reaction they initially ultimately have. So let's just look at it in isolation. Nick, what are your thoughts?
So I'd start, well, I'll run through them all, but I'll start with urgency, which is, you know, so the idea it's putting in my mind is it's about booking a flight, right? That's the idea, that you can book a flight with British Airways. That's why I would say it's not particularly good campaign, because it's like British Airways sells flights. Good. Thank you for telling me that. But for instance, if you're trying to make it more urgent, you wouldn't talk about a stag do necessarily. You would talk about something that lots of people will experience very soon. Now, I did see variants of this. So in January, where it's like, I don't know, the copy might say, because it's a rainy Friday night, or because it's rainy Monday morning syndrome, or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it said. That's a bit more urgent because it's a feeling we might all have in the near future that the copy seeks to spin off. A stag do doesn't, unless you're going on a stag do. Now, just to go through the rest of the ad, I mean, one point I would make is, well, let's make 2 points. One, the one thing I do not want on a flight, if I am getting on that flight, is a stag do, okay? 2, nobody in the history of the world has ever got a British Airways flight to a stag do. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. That's why you fly British Airways. So it's flawed for a couple of reasons. I would suggest the people that wrote it probably never got on a stag do, don't really understand the customer very well, which is that is the exact opposite of everything that brand stands for, which is something else, i.e. I don't want to get caught on with a stag do, so I've booked a British Airways. You do it differently. But that's besides the point. If you could go through the rest of the use, I would say it is unique because it uses a unique format to express the idea. It's harnessed the idea into the sort of questionnaire choices format, which I'm familiar with, but has a twist. So it is unique. I don't know if it's useful. Well, it's not. It's not useful. There's no use to me because there's no. This just not. It's just not useful. It fails that test. But it is unique. It could be specific if stag do was changed for something that might. Sorry, it could be urgent if stag do that was changed to something that was more dialed into my lived experience.
Ignoring the fact that it's a stag do and the branding element of it, like that's not people. ultimately can't afford to go on stag do's who are flying British Airways kind of thing. There's a price thing and an age thing. We'll come to that because it might be about the branding. I want to give it as much context as possible, but you could make it more urgent, perhaps, around the stag do idea, just by rephrasing it rather than doing the pray for me kind of thing, which is a bit kind of Love Island. You could be like, Keith's wedding next week. Like, it could be, you could get natural urgency into the stag do idea by making it, oh God, we've got to book for next week. I need to get my flight booked, which would give me more urgency, rather than this is just a knowing wink, wink. And it's what I'd say is why it's effective and liked by advertisers and marketing is because it is unique. And when things are unique, people, they're shiny and they're interesting. People are, oh, I've not seen that before. That's a different way to express things, which is why it's picked up by the advertising industry. But is it picked up by customers? They're not thinking, oh, I've never seen that advert done like that before. They think about it for a minute and then they go and book a holiday, irregardless of what brand is kind of thing.
So, I mean,
that's the difference there. So you could make that thing more urgent.
Yeah, so actually one way of thinking about that would be to think about all the seasonal triggers for booking a flight, of which they change, right? Like, caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. You might do towards the end of winter, like rainy January I talked about, or, there's various different things, or your mates have just gone on holiday because it's half term, or everyone else is skiing, or whatever it is, which is, by the way, all your friends going on a skiing trip is much more British Airways than a stag do. So you could switch out stag do and put something else in and attach that to some, I'm going to call it a seasonal trigger, but it's making the advert feel like it is part of the life I'm living now or soon will be living. That's what urgency means. It doesn't mean buy this by Friday, but it's trying to attach it to something that I'm going to be experiencing. So, for instance, you had lots of success back in the day with attaching trading ideas to things that were going on in people's lives, like watching Newsnight or brushing their teeth or whatever. We don't need to sort of take those ideas apart completely, but they all dialed into something that was going to happen in my life quite soon. And that's what real urgency is. So we could give it a tick, like the stag do pray for me thing is stupid, right? But the underlying idea is sound, which is like, why might someone book a holiday now? How might they be feeling if at this moment in time? How might we use that feeling to get our sale? The stag do stuff is more, if it was my money, right? If I was Mr. British Airways, I'd be like, stop that. So the ones that actually people might think about when they're booking a flight. Like, those ones were good, weren't they? The ones about rainy Januaries. Everybody wakes up in January and wants to book their holiday. So that works. That's just frivolous what we've got there. But the underlying is good. The uniqueness is there because it's a clever use of format. That's why you're advertising, people like it. The problem is that so it could be urgent and it could get a tick for unique. The usefulness, what's the final U? Why do I keep forgetting what the U's are? What have we done? We've done urgency. Oh, specificity. It's kind of as specific as it can be, is it?
I think so, in the sense that the idea of a stag do or all of the other things, that's the element of specificity. And I think the ultra, in the same way that you say earlier on in the direct response piece of copy, the uniqueness and the ultra specificity are linked inherently, because by being ultra specific, stag do, pray for me, that is an attempt at specificity. It's picking out a very specific moment in someone's life and experience. However, just saying stag do, pray for me, what would be the next thing? So I always was taught the gun metaphor for ultra specificity, where it's saying, like, I have a gun to my head, now you have a Walter PPK to your head kind of thing, because it makes it more tangible and you can see it and you can picture it, and it's it's a much more loaded word. Stag do is okay. It's better than just saying business, leisure, holiday. So would be the non-specific. They've gone to stag do. That's better and stronger. To improve this copy, could you what if it was Keith's like last wedding hurrah, or like Keith wants to get to Reykjavik before his...
The place naming would be the obvious.
Something like that might make it more specific, and then that will actually make it more urgent as well, because you're thinking, oh yeah, it's speaking to the future self where I need to book my flight next week because I'm going on, not Keith, but when I see Keith, I'm thinking of Phil, and I'm going on Phil's stag do kind of thing. So it lends itself to that. I think that would probably be a way to strengthen just the copy in this situation. Whether we are agreed with the advertising industry on whether this is an effective advert or not is kind of, that's one argument. But even so, the copy itself in this ad can be strengthened by using the 4 U's and going further down into those elements.
Well, that's true, certainly. And if it said Keith Stag, Reykjavik, pray for me, or whatever, that would be more specific in its own way and probably more compelling because it'd have a place name. So we could give it half scores on all of those. The one that it fails on is useful. And I think that's where we get into the direct response versus above the line thing, because direct response accepts, I would say, that advertising is you are an uninvited guest in somebody else's home. Therefore, I have to offer you something of value, whether that's entertainment, education, usefulness, whatever, however we want it. That's where useful comes in. This advert wanders into your home and acts like it belongs there, which it doesn't. It's an advert. We write adverts like we are uninvited. So it doesn't seek to offer anything useful to me or any reason I should act or book a holiday with British Airways as opposed to just with a different... In fact, I'd argue this makes you book a flight for EasyJet because it's a stag do on it. I think it's advertising to your competition.
It's a fair thing, which is what often with the best adverts of these types, you will often remember the advert format because of its uniqueness. You will often forget the brand that it was advertising. And that's happened in many, many a case. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate and represent Uncommon and even British Airways to some extent, but I'll represent the agency. I've been briefed with raising the profile. So as far as usefulness, does this raise the profile of British Airways to let's say, I imagine if they've got any sense, British Airways have said, we want to reach a wider audience and not just our typical customer base. Is this useful in raising the brand awareness of people?
I don't accept the premise. If you want to make people aware of who you are, right? So by that logic, why not commit a human rights atrocity? Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any... I think you don't have to ask people for their money in the advert. Obviously not. It's a different part of the funnel and the industry. But I do think you should offer a reason why. Offer a reason why they might buy your services. Like, it's right there in the stag do for me. So the reason I would book a British Airways, I always fly with British Airways, right? And the reason I do that is to avoid stag do's and slightly bigger seats and being treated like your holiday starts when you get on the airplane. It's not true, but that's the idea that I've bought into. So you could use the same format, but try to twist it round. So it's about avoiding a stag do. Reykjavik without the stag do, whatever. Or stag do, boys fly EasyJet, I fly British Airways, whatever. That isn't great copy because it's slightly too long. I know it has to be a bit more precise, but one could attempt to offer a reason why you might fly with British Airways, is my point. That would be usefulness. So really the idea is that you could tick actually all 4 boxes. You could have the unique format, the thing that cuts through that all the lovies love, oh, isn't it great? Whatever, and offer something to your prospect. It would be possible to do within this idea. It's not a flawed, by the way, we're judging this because it's a big agency that's putting out adverts to British Airways. If it's somebody that, was just straight out of university and writing adverts, probably won't go in so hard, but what are you going to do? So you could actually use all of the elements that are here and have a great campaign. I just think it stopped short. It stopped short of trying to persuade the customer that your product is worth buying, which is the goal of advertising. So could have kept everything else. We didn't have to throw it out. I love the bullets, but I just think that final bullet has to involve some implicit reason you would want to fly with British Airways over a different airline. And there are loads of reasons you would. There are loads, So I think we could have used the 4Us to sharpen it, or it passes the 4U test in certain areas. So we could have made it more seasonal, we could have made it more specific, and we could have worked harder to put usefulness in, and we would have had an even stronger ad that everybody would have liked, not just people who like advertising.
There you go. So really,
by the way, I noticed you were very quiet there, Glenn. Do you want to offer an opinion on it?
No. I think it's my personal opinion on this advert is I think it's a great idea. I think it's unique and interesting, and I think it's pretty cool. It's very nicely designed and all that kind of stuff. What I think could be improved is having the discipline to go deeper into the copy and how it relates to the customer with the same rigor that by using the 4Us as we've just done, hopefully people can see or hear how you can improve stuff. And that, I think, if as much time was given to the thought around the copy, I would hazard a guess that this is a brief that has come in its design form as a first instance, and then the copy has become secondary, and I think the copy could have been used to strengthen the design.
Yes.
That's how I feel about it. It's fine. Can it be stronger? Yes. Is it the greatest thing in the world? No. Does it deserve all the plaudits it gets? I don't know. It's kind of a false premise. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I'd like the industry to be more open about how effective these things are, rather than ironic. I'm looking at this myself on a website that is designed for things that are nice, and like design things and what have you, rather than being on a sales-led thing, although you can't really trust them anyway. No, what I was going to say is Uncommon and whoever published the Inception idea, we'd love to talk to you about it, and you can come and explain your thinking behind it, which is an open invitation. The point remains, though, and I think it's been enlightening, is how you can use these ideas to strengthen what are in both cases useful, effective copy that is out there in the world and being used to generate interest from customers, but you can still make it stronger. I will go back to Bill Bonner once saying, like, a copywriter, I won't name him to save his embarrassment, but he said, "Oh yeah, it's working. It's going really well. We don't need to look at this idea." And I think Bill said, "Oh, so you've written the best version of that and expressed it in the best way ever, have you? What are the chances? Wow, like, well done. You've got the best version in your first iteration. That's amazing. Like, how did that happen?" And the inherent sarcasm was, of course, there's always different ways to try stuff. There's different, like, iterations that you can try. And I think in both these cases, there are plenty of iterations to improve upon it, and try an alternative. And that's what the
4Us does,
yes.
Which is it puts a bit of structure on your thinking. Once you have a draft, you don't start writing and think, how do I do these 4 things whilst writing? Obviously, you don't. You have to have an idea first. It comes from another place. But it allows you to be analytical and structured in the way that you then start to improve things. And that's what makes it such a useful way of thinking about all copy, whether it's a headline or whatever it might be. And to that point, where that's why we did a 6-part deep dive on the 4 U's, which goes into each one in loads more detail than we've gone into, breaks each one apart and shows how they all work together. And as no matter what you're writing, blogs, landing pages, LinkedIn posts, it really doesn't matter. Using that framework to look at what you've written and make it stronger. Like I said, I know you don't like absolutes, but it will make you a better writer going through that process.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll pop a link if you want to check out that masterclass series. It's available to get. But hopefully we've given listeners enough there to think about when looking at headlines, especially looking at headlines. It does work across all elements of copy, but think about the 4 U's and look at the copy you're working on. Or one of the most useful things I think it can be for is if your headline's not quite hitting the mark, and you're looking for like a test to try and, the idea might be quite like there, and it's a strong idea and it's got legs, but you're not expressing it in the right way. The 4 U's, again, that framework can help you kind of come up with these alternatives, as we've seen in the case with both of these examples. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Right. Answers on a postcard. If you've ever been on a stag do on a British Airways flight, I don't believe anyone exists that has done that, but there must be one person out there. Maybe they're listening.
Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like this episode and share your biggest takeaway in the comments below.